Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. Aaron Rodgers told the Pat McAfee Show earlier this week 2025 might be his last. Maybe it's the beginning of the end, and maybe that means that there's a revenge tour loading. Who knows? No one ever does with Aaron Rodgers. But it all starts week one when the new quarterback of the Steelers will face his old team in the New York Jets. That happens in week one. And there's all kinds of revenge in that one. Justin Fields now lining up behind center in the Meadowlands, by the way, so we'll get revenge on revenge action there as you take a look at that schedule, because it's not just week one that Aaron Rodgers faces his former team. Of course, the team that he made his name with, the Green Bay Packers. He'll see them week 8, Sunday Night Football under the bright lights. It'll be the first time he faces off against his former team, by the way. So expecting all the fireworks there week 8 against the Packers. We've got Tyler Sullivan in the house, our NFL analyst, to help us break down some of these players that are on a revenge tour, and we'll pick it up right there when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Tyler, knowing that A-Rod has said that this might be his last year, of course, we never know. We can't take what he says truly at face value, but he's got 2 revenge games on tap this season. Which one are you more looking forward to, Rodgers versus the Jets or Rodgers versus the Packers?
I'm looking forward to the Jets, honestly, right out of the gate in week 1, because with the Green Bay Packers, I don't know if there's a lot of revenge there. I think that they drafted Jordan Love. They wanted to move on. They sent him to the place he wanted to go in the New York Jets. With the New York Jets, it does feel like there's a little bit of bad blood, especially with this new head coaching staff in Aaron Glenn. You remember, just this offseason, Aaron Rodgers flew across the country to go meet with Aaron Glenn, the newly hired head coach of the New York Jets, to see if he was going to be the starting quarterback. Things kind of dissolved. He said that he wasn't happy. The Jets had a different story, and that just feels like bad blood to me. I don't know if there's anything really bad bloody with the Green Bay Packers. Sure, the end of his tenure could have ended a little bit better, but overall, I think that there's a little bit more venom here right out of the gate in week 1, especially going to the Meadowlands to take on his former team. And I do love the other fact that Justin Fields is just kind of off to the side here doing his own revenge tour against his former team in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you look at Aaron Rodgers this season, whether it is his last dance or revenge tour or whatever you want to call it, it is really interesting. As much as I don't think that the Green Bay Packers game is a quote-unquote revenge, we could see history, because if he beats his former team, he'll just be one of 5 quarterbacks to beat all 32 teams in the NFL. So something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, especially when that game is not in Green Bay. It is at home for Pittsburgh, so that adds another layer to that, too. That's a great stat, Tyler. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers, making history along the way. Let's go over to the NFC West, where the Seahawks are settling into year 2 under Mike McDonald. It's Cooper Kupp's. I almost said Cooper Flag because we were talking about the NBA draft earlier. A different Cooper here, though, Cooper Flag. He get his revenge a little bit 2 times this season in the division. It kind of feels like when it comes to Cooper, Tyler, this is a guy who was kind of cast off to the side, very similar to how you were talking about Justin Fields, right? Like, oh, he's too old, he's too injured. Let's send him to the Seahawks and see what he can do. What should we expect out of Cooper Flag in 25?
Yeah, I think that that's a great point to call him kind of a cast-off, because that's kind of how I feel about him right now. This is someone who I believe was so important to his organization that he probably should have stayed his entire career with the Los Angeles Rams. He feels like that kind of player, right? That just spends his entire career with one organization. But you watched how that offense ran a year ago, and they phased him out. And it's not like they phased him out, they moved on from him this offseason, and they didn't do anything to the position. They went out and signed Devontae Adams, so they clearly wanted a wide receiver opposite of Puka Nacua. They just didn't want it to be Cooper Kupp. So to me, that is what's interesting. And then to add the extra sprinkle on top of it, he stays in the NFC West, goes to the Seattle Seahawks, and sure, he's battled injuries throughout his career, but even in 12 games last season, 700 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, he's a productive player when he's on the field. So if he goes up against his former team twice and is able to knock them off at least once, that could hurt them in the playoff race.
See, Tyler, you're a professional because you just described to us how Cooper Kupp is going to do with the Seattle Seahawks, and I teed you up to talk about how Cooper Flag was going to do with the Seattle Seahawks. So thank goodness Cooper Flag is a better upgrade, or Cooper Kupp is a better upgrade there. You know what I'm trying to say. Let's move on from the Coopers and talk about Aiden Hutcherson, guy who maybe not so much revenge when it comes to the schedule, but we all saw what was the makings of a future defensive player of the year in those first couple of weeks last year. I mean, he was leading the league in sacks from the opening whistle. I mean, when you take a look here, he has plus 320 odds to win Comeback Player of the Year behind Dak Prescott, of all people. Shout out to the Cowboys. But Tyler, in all seriousness, Aiden Hutcherson was scary last year. What do you expect from him now that he's officially been cleared for football activities?
Haley, it absolutely broke my heart as a gambler to see Aiden Hutcherson go down, because your boy had him leading the league in sacks ticket in his pocket going into the regular season. He had 7.5 sacks going through his 5th game, and of course he goes down. And obviously, my betting woes to the side. A tough blow for the Detroit Lions and a tough blow for Aiden Hutcherson, because he is such an important piece to what they do defensively. Of course, he's one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL, and I don't think his absence was felt any more than in that playoff loss coming out of the bye against the Washington Commanders when they were upset by Jaden Daniels. He was not sacked a single time in that game. The Detroit Lions only had 2 quarterback hits in that playoff loss. And of course, Jaden Daniels is such a shifty quarterback, so it's tough to take him down. But you're telling me that if Aiden Hutcherson wasn't on the field, that he wouldn't have taken him down? So to me, this is a team that was the #1 seed a year ago, and now you're getting back what is arguably one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I think he's going to show out this year.
Yeah, it's just going to be fun, man. Based on what we saw last year, 2025, I am scared for the rest of their division and quite frankly, the rest of the NFC. If they can get it all together, I know they've had some coaches changes. Let's go over to the 49ers, who the whole roster, it seems, is out for blood. It was just an uncharacteristic season plagued by injuries, but now they've got their quarterback locked up. They've got a couple of pieces coming back as well. What's the revenge conversation going to look like when we talk about the 49ers, Tyler?
Yeah, I just don't feel like anybody's giving them any respect right now. I don't think that anybody's looking at the 49ers with any sort of fear, and I think that that's totally off base. You got to remember, before last season, where the injury bug basically just went up to them like it was a buffet, they were a team that went to the NFC Championship 3 straight years, was in the Super Bowl the year prior to last, and they still have a lot of that core. I know a lot was made about the exodus that left this organization over the course of the offseason, but Kyle Shanahan's still on the sideline. Brock Purdy's under center. CMC's back in the backfield. You have George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. The cast is still there in terms of legit elite talent. And to me, I look at them and say, why is nobody talking about the San Francisco 49ers? Why is it all about the Los Angeles Rams, who I'm high on, but it's the 49ers who are favored in the NFC West, and I think that's correct.
All right, last one here. I'm very interested on your take when it comes to the Patriots. I think a lot of people have sort of shifted their perspective with how that division is shaping up, but feels like no one with a bigger chip on their shoulder than Mike Vrabel, at least from a coaching perspective. I mean, this was a guy who was the hottest name on the coaching carousel in 2024. Instead, he gets passed up, has to wait a year, and it worked out, I think, how it should, Tyler. But what kind of energy is Vrabel bringing to Foxborough this year?
He's the kind of guy that comes out of the womb with a chip on his shoulder, it feels like. He was like that as a player. He was like that as a head coach, and you're seeing it here in New England. But the game that I have circled and why he is such a revenge guy in this season is, look at Week 7. The New England Patriots traveled down to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans, the team that dismissed him after the 2023 season. So you're talking about a head coach who I think we all thought at the time was an elite coach of the year type of caliber coach. Kind of head scratching. They moved off of him. He didn't feel like he was the problem in Tennessee. Obviously, they move on. He spends last year as an assistant with the Cleveland Browns, now back in New England where he played as a player. I think that his culture is absorbing in Foxborough, and I think he's going to let it show in that Week 7 game in Nashville.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't forget that he used to coach Tennessee, but I am excited now that you've reminded me what that Week 7 matchup will look like. Tyler Sullivan, we appreciate your time. Revenge season is loading in the NFL.